Diane here from Backroad Buddies, and the video we want to share with you today is about a one-year review of our Winnebago EKKO. Now we've had our EKKO now for a year, and 7.5 months of that year have been on the road continuously. So we felt it was about time we would report back to you about how things went. Now this is a rather in-depth review, so we're not only reviewing the Winnebago EKKO itself, but how we organized it, mods we've made to it, new gear we brought along with us. So this is really an in-depth review of our whole setup. This is the second of 3 videos about the review, and this mainly includes the exterior areas of the EKKO. So that is the heating and air conditioning, the gear garage, the outdoor kitchen, the roof, and the awning. The first video covers mainly the interior areas, which include the entry door, the front cab area, the dinette, the kitchen, the bathroom, and the bedroom. The third video covers mainly the systems. So it includes the propane, the water systems, the electrical systems, drivability, and our overall impressions. Now, since this is a rather long video, feel free to look in the description. There's a timeline for each of the sections of this video. We broke it up into areas of the EKKO. So look down there if you just want to skip to a particular area, or if you just want to, view some now and then come back to it. You can use that timeline to jump right to a particular section. So let's dive in. Part 7 is heating and air conditioning. Now we used both of the furnace and the air conditioner quite a bit over the 7.5 months. More the air conditioner than the furnace, since we were in the southern states. I mean, it was snowing when we left at the beginning of the season, and it was 123 degrees in Fort Worth in the middle of the summer. So we generally only ran the air conditioner when we were plugged into shore power, and although we accidentally did run it 7 hours off the batteries, and our batteries were still like in the 38% or something like that. So we did on a couple occasions run the air conditioner a couple times off the batteries when we were parked somewhere and we didn't want the rig to heat up. So that's good to know that you can do that. The furnace, you probably can hear the furnace running right now. It's a little cool today as I'm shooting this video. Now both the heat and the air conditioner are ducted, so the furnace ducts are down near the floor throughout the coach. There's one way over there in the corner. And they did a fair job of distributing the heat and the air conditioner throughout the coach. I mean, the air conditioner vents are in the ceiling. So there's one in here, one over there. We did find that the DC fans helped a little bit, just helped distribute the air, both heat and cool. And we did do a quick little fix on the air conditioner. This is the air conditioning unit right here. Most of the air, as it comes from Winnebago, it seems to dump a lot more cold air out of here than it does the vents. So we just took the cover off and taped up the flow from there to kind of force it out the vents. So that seemed to help. And then this unit is rather noisy, and notice it's right above the beds. So if you put the fan on automatic, that means the air compressor and the fan turn on and off together. So in the middle of the night, the compressor will shut off, the fan will shut off, and it'll be nice and quiet, and then all of a sudden both of them will kick on and it's kind of startling when you're sleeping. So we thought we'd run the fan on manual, and initially we turned it on manual low, and then one night the air conditioner shut off, which isn't a nice thing to have when it's really hot outside. But we discovered that running it on manual low, and that meant that the fan stayed on the whole time, and then the compressor would just turn on and off, which was a little less startling in the night. So we liked that better, but on low it really didn't give enough airflow, and the air conditioner coils froze up, so then you had to wait for them to thaw again before you could turn the air conditioner back on. So we learned to put the fan on manual high, and we didn't have an issue since then. So let's see, I don't want to turn this on for very long because I'm actually trying to warm things up in here. As you see, I just turned the furnace on and it's freezing in here, literally. So if you go in here, well, this is just the fan high. This is the air conditioner's on, fans on high, and you can toggle between auto, low, and high. So you want to have it on fan high if you want to do what we did. So good, it didn't kick on. Well, it shouldn't have kicked on because it's not that hot in here. Now, if it was really extremely hot outside or extremely cold, and we wanted to not have the air conditioner or heater work as hard, keep in mind that this front cab area is not insulated and there's all that glass. So we would pull out the insulated curtain and put that up here so we wouldn't heat or cool the space up there and just heat and cool the space back here. So that kind of saved a little bit on making that work too hard, and that we didn't do that very often, but just in really extreme temperatures we did that. Now, kind of going along with heat and cold, this monitor right here does not come with the EKKO. We added this. This is a thermometer itself, so it's telling us it's 36 degrees in here with a humidity of 37%, and we have 3 remote sensors. So one is in the gear garage, one is in the water compartment, and one is actually outside. And that's nice to keep an eye on everything, to know if things are getting near freezing or just, and it's also nice to know what the outside temperature is. So do I want to get up and go to the bathroom in the campground, or do I want to stay in here where it's more comfortable? Or what do I want to put on in the morning? So we really like that. We had a little bit of an issue of where we originally mounted the external remote sensor thermometer. We originally just mounted it up underneath. We just taped it to the frame underneath, but it didn't seem to hold. So we ended up moving it, and when we thought about putting it like down here and resting it here, and it's mainly shaded, but then we decided to put it, let's see if I can see it here. So moved it up here to on top of the whatever you call it, the hitch mount, and so it's resting on top, so gravity's not pulling on that tape. But as you can see, it's starting to fail now too, but then we can do like a Velcro or cinch strap on there and hold it on there. But we kind of like that better because it's not, gravity's not pulling down on it, so hopefully we won't lose that remote sensor because we like having it. Part 8 is the outdoor kitchen. The outdoor kitchen is an option on the EKKO, and it's in this compartment right next to the, get it here, right next to the front, the entry door. And ours originally came with the outdoor kitchen, but we bought a canceled order, so it wasn't the options we really wanted. We didn't want the outdoor kitchen, so we actually ripped that out and sold it to someone who did want it. But in a sense, this is sort of our outdoor kitchen. We actually don't have it in there right now, but our Blackstone griddle goes right there. But we use this to store other things as well. These are our Go treads, traction boards and leveling blocks. We we also have some wheel chocks. We actually travel with we actually travel with 4 2x6s, but 2 of them split on us during the season, so we'll have to replace those. I mean, they still kind of worked even split, but we'll replace those. It's pretty much scrap wood anyway. And just, some other odds and ends in here that we might need to grab. Now, this is the first season we've had these Go treads. Go treads. And we really like them. They kind of serve 2 purposes. Luckily, we never had to use them as traction boards, which is their really main original intent. For leveling blocks before, we've used those Camco. They kind of look like Legos. They didn't really seem to hold up, and they broke after about a week. My cameras. And then we also use the beach lanes, which is kind of like this wedge you ride up on. But we needed to get more for the EKKO anyway, so we thought we'd try something new. So we went with these Go treads. And it's, yeah, as I said before, it's nice to know that we've got traction boards if we need them. But, so if we needed anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of lift, you actually would put down, however, that would give us the 4 inches, that would give us 3, we could, and then, yeah, you kind of have to work out the 2. Now I'm trying to remember how we did the 2. Anyway, you kind of fold it up and you can go anywhere from 1 to 4 actually. But if it was less than 2, we would use the 2x6s. And there was one occasion, well, a couple occasions where we needed more than 4 inches. One time we did try to stack the Go treads on top of the 2x6s. That seemed a little sketchy to us, so we didn't do that again. We just lived with the 4-inch lift and be a little out of level. There's nothing actually in the rig that requires you to be perfectly level. It's just more of a nuisance of things rolling off counters, and when you're cooking, things slide around the pan. So nothing really critical that you have to be level. So this setup really worked for us, and we really like it. Now, we did travel with a small little level so we could determine, how off of level the rig was. But we actually rarely use the actual level. There's what's the name of the app? The Truma phone app is what we used and placed on the floor. And it would actually tell us, all 4 points where the wheels are and how many inches they were off. So we found that to be much easier to use than an actual level. Now, the Blackstone griddle was new equipment this year for us. We really loved cooking with it. It has a really large surface area to cook on. Before, we would use like a single burner butane camping stove where you could only get 1 skillet on there. So, we could cook both of our hamburgers. We like doing these tortilla pizzas. And so we could get both of them on there. We could get like 4 pancakes on there. So we really like that. Now this runs off of propane. We actually have a quick connect, so this easily connects into here. The other end connects into our propane quick connect on the EKKO. So we didn't have to have any separate propane for the Blackstone, so that was nice. We could run off of our 2 tanks. And the best part I liked about this is I got Keith more involved in the cooking. So I could get him to set this up. He would do some of the cooking while I would be inside prepping the food to cook. And then I could also get him to clean this up and put it away. So that meant no pots and pans to clean when we were done with dinner. Part 9 is the gear garage. Now this gear garage is one of the main features of why we bought the EKKO. It stores a lot of gear. It's got 3 doors to make it easy to access everything. But the main thing we wanted it for was to store our new e-bikes. These are Rad Expand 5s inside to be out of the weather a little more secure from theft, but mainly out of the weather. And so we kind of rigged this up to get these in here. So they roll right in. And all we need to do is we have quick release pedals on here. So we pop the pedals off, fold the handlebars down, and we can get both of those e-bikes, roll them in, and then we have ratchet straps that secure them down. If you want more details on that, you can go look at our EKKO modifications video, and it gets more into detail of how we rigged that up. Now the e-bikes really turned out to be everything we were hoping they would be. They were new this season. We actually didn't use the power. We probably about half the time would turn the power assist on. I mean, we didn't mind getting a workout. They are heavy bikes. They're 65 pounds a piece. So you do get a workout when you don't have the power assist on, which was great. But it enabled us to go places and be confident that we would get back if we'd get worn out, or it was hillier than we thought, or more rough terrain than we thought, or you got a strong headwind, or you get lost, right? So we had a little more confidence to go out, and we used them more often, I think, than we did our hybrid bikes when we had those with us. We also used them only once to go to the grocery store. We thought we'd do that more often, but we had a tendency to stop at a grocery store on our travel days, so we kind of didn't have to leave the campground to do that. And we were actually surprised about how little we recharged those batteries. Initially, we thought we could plug them in here. There's power inside the gear garage, and we thought, oh, we'll plug them in and they can be charging while we're traveling down the road. But then we got to reading about how sometimes batteries like this will overheat and possibly catch on fire. So I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like a good idea. So when we did need to charge them, we actually plugged them in the outside here. There's some AC outlets on the outside of the rig, and we'd just lay the batteries on the ground and charge them that way, and then we could keep an eye on it. And we didn't, leave the rig with them sitting there. So if they did overheat, hopefully we would notice. Now, the one thing we do like all the doors on the gear garage, but if you notice, there's 2 latches, 2 keys on every single door. So that got to be a little bit of a pain, because we like to keep things closed up and locked just to keep things secure. So when we wanted to get the bikes out, we had 4 latches and 4 locks to undo. And then, because I like to use my small backpack when I ride, because I have a clip on there for my camera, and my backpack was back here, that meant we had to open up all 3 doors, 6 locks, and so that got to be a little bit of a pain. But that was I think cycling was the only time we had to open up all 3. Initially, we had to do that for hiking because we had our trekking poles over here. We had our hiking boots here, and then our backpacks were on the end. Well, it didn't take us long to realize we moved our trekking poles over here, so then we only had to open up 2 doors. We kept a lot of other stuff in here as well. We had this sand-free mat, which we didn't use it a whole lot, but I'm hoping to use it more in the future, because I liked having it. You'd set it out in front of the rig. It would be a nice area where you don't have, dirt, mud, wet, whatever. And I liked taking my yoga mat and going on there to stretch out. Now, I would prefer to stretch out every night, but I always would seem to find excuses because I kind of overhang this mat when I stretch out. So if the ground's, muddy, dirty, wet, or the weather's not good, it's too cold, it's too hot, I'd find excuses not to stretch out. But if I have that sand-free mat out there, I think I would stretch out more often. So I'm hoping to use that more in the future. And it's not too bad to set out and put away. So it's not a big setup item. What was also nice about keeping most of our outdoor gear out here is, it gets dirty, it gets muddy, it gets wet, and we're not tracking all of that inside the rig. So it's nice to have an outdoor space we can put that in and not bring it inside. If you want to know what else we stored back here, you can go to our EKKO organization video and get the details on what exactly we all stored back here. Now, we did have 2 flat tires on our bike. We were a little concerned about how hard that would be to swap out the inner tube, considering there was a motor on that back wheel. But the first time we weren't far from a bike shop, and we had some days that we didn't need the bike, so we actually dropped the bike off and had them replace the tire. But the second time, it was in the morning when we discovered it and we wanted to go for a ride, so we did it ourselves. And it actually turned out to be pretty simple. And we just kind of paid attention to how everything was put together as we were taking it apart, and replaced the inner tube. The tire going back on the rim we actually found to be pretty easy. Normally that's a struggle, like on our hybrid bikes. It always was such a tight fit, and it seemed like you were fighting the tire to get that back on the rim, but this went on pretty easily, so we were pretty pleased about how easy that was to change. Part 10 is the roof. Now, up on the roof, most of the roof is taken up by solar panels and the air conditioner, but there is this one nice large square area that we took advantage of to put gear. Now, we found this nice waterproof bag called a roof bag that fit perfectly in that space, and it straps onto the bars there, and so that really worked out well. We put things up there that we didn't use very often. We had our stand-up paddleboard gear and our backpacking gear stored up there. That worked out pretty well. It wasn't too hard to get that stuff down. One of us would climb up the ladder, open up the bag, and hand the items down to someone, the other person standing down here. So it was actually not too bad. The issue we did have with this bag, though, was it took a while, but after a while these buckles started wearing holes in the bag, and we tried taping it up, but then the buckles eventually wore through the tape. So we're gonna have to probably figure something else out for the next season. I don't know if we can somehow rig it up so those buckles don't rub, or see if I had a hard time finding another carrier that would fit that space. So I don't know if we just get a new one or what we do there. The other issue is, note that that's black. And we had all our backpacking gear up there. So I'm sure it got really toasty up there on the roof. Now, we had our backpacking tent stored up there. And when we actually went on the one backpacking trip that we were going on, we discovered that the tent was no longer waterproof, and it was leaking in all the seams. Luckily, we had an extra little tarp with us that we used kind of as a sit pad, and we were able to drape that over the tent to keep ourselves from getting soaked that night. Now, I don't know if it was because of the heat stored in the roof bag, or, it had been stored in our garage for 3 years, or 4 years, or it was how we cinched it up, because we did cinch it up pretty tight on one of our packs. So I don't know if we cracked the waterproofing on the seams when we did that, or if it was a combination of all those things. But just beware, you're putting stuff on a roof in black. It's going to get hot, so don't store anything in there that might get damaged. Now, our stand-up paddleboard seemed to weather through that fine. The other issue we found is this ladder is black. And if you have it sitting out in the sun, in the heat, it gets too hot to touch, let alone grab and climb up there. So I was concerned a couple times of how I was going to get the paddleboard put back away. But by the time it had dried out and when I was ready to put away, it had become shaded and it wasn't an issue. But just be aware that ladder gets really hot. I did almost burn my feet, because you notice there's some black trim around the edge, and I went up there and I was in my sandals and I knelt down and the tops of my feet touched that black trim. Not for very long though, because I almost burned my feet. So just be aware of those black surfaces in the sun and in the heat. Now this was our first season for the stand-up paddleboard. Keith's not much of a water person, so I was the only one that used this. This is the first time I've used a paddleboard, and it took me a lot longer to get comfortable on the board than I thought. I mean, it was easy if you were kneeling or sitting on the board. That was no problem, but it was standing up and how much balance that actually took, and how much, you know, because you've got little waves or you bump into something, and I did fall off twice. I kind of tweaked my back a little bit the second time, but yeah, it took me a while to get comfortable. And I only used it about, I think I went out like 8 times the whole season, which isn't a lot, but those few times that I went out, there was just some really special times, like at Silver Spring State Park in Florida, where I was out there with the manatee swimming underneath the board. It was just really something special.
Part 11, the awning.
We sort of have a love-hate relationship with the awning. When it works properly, it's great. You can use it to help shade the vehicle, to help keep it cool. You've got a nice shaded area, depending which angle the sun's coming from, because sometimes it's on the wrong side of the vehicle. We didn't get the bat wing, and that would help with getting shade on the other side if that's the way the sun was coming from. And you can get a little bit of protection from the rain, but the issue is it's somewhat sensitive to the wind. Now it does have a wind sensor. There is a wind sensor in here, so which is a blessing and a curse as well. It's nice to have that wind sensor there, so if the wind does kick up, it'll automatically retract, which is nice because we actually had our awning damaged on our camper van. Of course, to be fair, it was not just a gust of wind, it was a dust devil, but luckily we were right there and able to grab up and grab it so it didn't fly away, but it sheared the bolts off the vehicle. But the problem with the wind sensor is it has batteries in it, and they seem to go dead quite often, and it has this little annoying alarm when the batteries start getting low. Now, that little alarm will go off whether you have the awning out or not, so it seemed like it always would start to go off as you're getting ready for bed and you hear this annoying alarm. So there was a couple times where we just got in the habit of going in to the fuse panel and pulling the fuse to the awning to get it to stop so we can go to bed and not deal with it the next day. And then to change the batteries is not that easy either. There's 2 screws to kind of pull the unit down, and then there's 4 different screws, so you have to use a different screwdriver to get the cover off to get to the batteries, and then, you know, reverse everything to put it back up there. So that's a little bit of a pain in the butt. Now what's finicky about this awning is it likes to stick a lot. Now there was one time where we got a twig accidentally up there and we didn't realize it and closed the twig in there, and it kind of jammed it up, and we had a heck of a time getting it back open again. But we did, and then there's just a lot of times where it sticks coming in or out. So we got in the habit of, when we deploy it, that we actually put a little pressure on it to try to keep it from sticking as it deploys. But then, you know, some days works better than others. So it's kind of this love-hate relationship. Now, we also carried with us a moonshade, which we used on our camper van, but we actually didn't use it at all on the EKKO, and there was probably a couple reasons for that. One is there's several different ways to attach a moonshade. It's sort of like a tent. It assembles somewhat like a tent, but the one side attaches to the vehicle and the other side has legs like a tent poles. And there's 3 different ways you can attach it to the vehicle. One is it has these really strong magnets, which works great on a camper van, but This is not metal, so it won't go on the side of the EKKO. The other way is with suction cups. Now, we actually didn't try the suction cups. We were a little concerned of how well it would hold, so we didn't even try it. And the third way is you can actually have little hooks. There's little carabiners at the top, and so you can hook it. And that's how actually we used it on the camper van. We tried the magnets, but even the strong magnets, when it gets windy, they would kind of slide around and pull off. So we actually went to putting little hooks on our roof rack, and then it was really easy from the ground to actually hook that moonshade in there and put it up. But our EKKO is a lot taller than our camper van, so if we would put it in there, attach it to there, that's awfully high up. So the higher up you put your awning, the less effect of a shade you're going to get. So we didn't use it, so we're actually not going to carry that anymore. And actually, I've already given it away to a friend of ours. So, I mean, it's still a nice product, but it just doesn't really seem to fit with the EKKO.
So thanks for watching. And if you want more details, you can look in the description below for a link to our related blog post. So check that out. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Ta-ta for now.